So what if I said I'd actually seen rocks that look like trolls that made me think these aren't rocks? What if I told you that I'd actually witnessed ships in the sky? What if I told you that I'd actually had woken one night to the presence in the room and smelt sulphur, and I knew that there'd been extraterrestrial life in my bedroom? You know, what if I've seen dead people? There's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or millions of other worlds out there, and I know that they exist because I've witnessed them, I've seen them. But I was born into the world to become a shaman. That's what I am. And shamans, they live their whole life journeying between the worlds. That's what they do. The shaman, I guess, has to be able to see between the worlds. The shaman has to be able to trust that the things that other people might regard as imaginary or make-believe are real. If you were to ask a child, do dragons exist? If you were to ask a child, does unicorns exist? They're going to say, of course they do. And why is that? It's because they do exist. The best place to hide something is in plain view, I've always said. And I know where to look for them. I know where they are. This physical world that we live in is just one place. There's many other worlds as well. Many other places, dream spaces, dimensions. They're all around us. There's subtle doorways, portals. And there are ways of accessing those worlds, those other places. Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Yowies or Yetis. Those creatures live on this mountain apparently. There's been so many sightings of hairy, giant people. And one minute they're there, next minute they're gone. And surprisingly, it's the Japanese tourists and the people who visit this amazing mountain that speak about them the most. People who haven't been raised with these stories. There was this one busload of Japanese tourists that arrived at the general store here, terrified. It was a really hot summer's day, and they were bundled out of the bus and were yelling about this big creature that they'd seen. They said it was a female, and she'd ripped the lid off a water tank, and she was giving a little baby some water that she'd scooped out, and it wasn't a person. It was a big hairy beast, they said. So where do these things come from? Where do they go? Like, how do they suddenly appear and then vanish? Something of that size, and there must be more of them if they're having children. And where do angels come from? You know, they're beings of where? The celestial realms. No different to the fairy realms or the realm of Fae. You know, it's no different really. They're just portals, or there's portals between these other realms or these other dimensions, and the Yeti, or the Yowie as we call them here in Australia, is able to access those places. Like, there's paintings on the caves up in Arnhem Land, and the art there is almost exactly the same where it comes to the symbols as what you might find down in Africa. And see, our people talk about things called songlines or ley lines, or these invisible pathways between the worlds. So what's the difference between saying here and heaven, or Africa and northern Queensland? So they're able to access these invisible passageways backwards and forwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, they say that life began in Africa, and yet Australia, the people here, is classified as one of the oldest people on the planet. For the majority of my childhood, starting from about 6 years of age, I endured sexual abuse. It was a very confusing and daunting time. So as a result of that, I guess, I spent most of my time away from humans and basically hiding under the house or playing under our outdoor setting or in my cubby house, just watching the animals and being close to them. The spiders became my friends, the birds became my allies, and I just loved nothing more than watching the frilled-neck lizards in the trees. It was this time of observation and closeness, I guess, that I developed this ability to really bond and see the animals for what they truly were. For me, they were more than just four-legged creatures that shared the planet with me. They became messengers, they became friends. I remember growing up really believing I was all alone, feeling totally alone and isolated. At times I felt broken, confused, bewildered. When I was born, because my mother was very neglectful, she said, "Oh yes, well I don't really remember when you were born." She said, "But I do remember breakfast trolleys, so you must have been born in the morning." Oh, right. It wasn't until much later in life, though, that I realised that I wasn't alone at all. That the mother I yearned for in the physical sense, the nurturing person that I missed, that I didn't really believe I ever had or didn't think I ever would have, that energy was all around me, in the earth herself, the Earth Mother. She spoke about something called earth medicine, and she spoke about medicine just by itself, and I got confused because I thought medicine was something you take when you're sick, that a doctor gives you. And she helped me to understand that I was right, that medicine is something that you bring into yourself to make you strong, but it isn't from a doctor. Medicine is knowledge. Medicine is wisdom. Medicine is strength that comes from knowing who you are. And the animals, as it turns out, each have a medicine. They have a message. They have a strength that you can draw upon to make you whole. So when I speak about animal medicine, I'm speaking about their true force, their life force. And it's this medicine that if you were to not live like animals, but live with the animals or live in tune with the animals, they would be able to share these messages, this knowledge with you, and you could integrate it into your life to make your life richer. It's like the wolf does. For example, the wolf might wander off and eat a berry, and then the wolf might die because it was a poisonous berry. All the other wolves know not to eat those berries. They learn from those experiences. In my world, unicorns and dragons and centaurs are not imaginary. They literally exist, right? So when I'm reading a book as a kid about giraffes, or say the oryx of Arabia, this, you know, the beautiful antelope with these amazing long horns, and then in my pile of books I've got a book there about dragons and basilisks, I just did not see the difference. I didn't see that there was a separation. I didn't understand that one supposedly was imaginary and one wasn't. So, and this is right from a little kid, I just didn't comprehend. I was confused why you go to a zoo and there was no, you know, unicorns or dragons in the zoo, but then I was also equally confused as to why every single culture seems to speak about dragons. So they must have existed once, and I just put them in the same basket as dinosaurs. I just thought, well, maybe they were here and they just died out. The word gargoyle means water spout, that's what it means. So the first time the people started speaking about these water spout creatures, these amazing dragon-like creatures, they were creatures of the water originally. And there's this story of, in a bay, this dragon-like creature making its way into the bay, spurting water. What if it was a whale? What if it was a small whale? And when they breathe through their air hole, they send this mist up into the air. And if you search the word gargoyle up, this story will come up, and there'll be this picture of these people standing in awe of this small whale-like creature. So they found they needed to capture this dragon. They didn't know what it was. They were afraid that it was going to kill the fishermen. So they got this poor criminal, this man who'd been accused of terrible things, and they used him as bait. And they captured this dragon-like creature and strung this dragon-like creature up. Over time, the story of this creature became great, and they eventually, you see them now, gargoyles hanging off the side of medieval churches, as water spouts. That's literally where that's the origin of these creatures. So when we go in search of gargoyles, we might be searching for whales. It's very, very boring in comparison, but that's where these stories supposedly sprung from. And you know those harpies, you know, they're women with wings. You ever heard of them? These horrible screaming calls. There's these monkeys down in South America called the howler monkey, and there's an eagle which is named after these harpy creatures called the harpy eagle because of its call. Who's to say that the first harpy that was witnessed wasn't a howler monkey being carried away by one of these harpy eagles, and that the distorted, horrible face that they used to describe the harpy wasn't that of the monkey screaming or howling in terror as it gets carried away by this huge winged beast. The best place to seek the knowledge of these things at is the locals, because they know of these creatures. So if I was to talk here in Australia about the Yowie, I'd go up to Mount Springbrook and talk to the people up there about their experiences and the things that they've smelt and heard and stuff. I'd speak to the locals. I might speak to the local medicine people. So if you're talking about harpies, you'd go to where the harpies were witnessed and chat to the people there. Like, there's stories of amazing dragon-like creatures down in the Congo. Who's to say that they weren't, you know, the residual, like the remains or the last traces of, I don't know, pterodactyl or something? I'd speak to those people. I'd speak to the shamans and the medicine people of those areas. It'd be quite exciting to talk to all those people. Law enforcement people. They're out on the road all the time. Most sightings of the Yeti or Bigfoot in the States are from law enforcement people who are on the highway all the time. They're driving around the back streets at all the odd times of the night. I'd chat to them. I'd chat to people who do the research like I do. Cryptozoologists, people who aren't sure whether these animals are myth or legend or whether they actually are unrecorded beasts. Who's to say?
And anybody coming on my property looking for no good, I'm going to shoot them.
Absolutely. Whoa, the heck?
What the crap?
What was that?
Did you see that?
Yes. Absolutely. Whoa, the heck? Absolutely. Whoa, the heck? Whoa, the heck?
Look, there's so many different interpretations of what makes an angel. Some people call angels the light elves, and they live between our realm and the realm of God, in this realm that sits between, which could be heaven. There's dark elves, which are also known as gnomes and goblins and trolls. As a man of spirit yourself, you believe in God or you believe in the spiritual realms. There's the physical world and there's the realm of spirit. But there's actually a third world you would believe in as well, which is the underworld or hell. Yeah. So there's three worlds really. So why would we stop there? Why would we say, okay, well maybe there's another realm called the realm of fairy, where the fae live? What if there's a realm of the dead as well? You know, what if there is another world where you go? What if those worlds are all one? You know, what if there are other parallel universes similar to ours but slightly different, like Philip Pullman speaks about in The Golden Compass, as it was known as the movie. You know, what if there is a world similar to ours where the soul is externalized as an animal that walks beside you? What if that's where I'm from? I get my inspiration. If I was to write a fantasy story, I'd get my inspiration from those old beliefs, those old religions, which essentially are truth. I look at these things and I think that there's a truth hidden in there. And I think those with a cryptic mind should be able to sit and ask the right questions and find those answers. And that's what I find exciting about the world that I live in, is that nothing is impossible. If you can imagine it, then it's real. All the most exciting things in the world have been created from an imagination.